Since 2017, the Italian Wine Podcast has exploded, recently hitting 6 million listens. Support us by buying a copy of Italian Wine Unplugged 2.0 or making a small donation. In return, we'll give you the chance to nominate a guest and even win lunch with Stevie Kim and Professor Attilio Scienza. Find out more at italianwinepodcast.com. Chin chin!
Welcome to Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on Italian Wine Podcast. Listen in as we journey to some of Italy's most beautiful places in the company of those who know them best, the families who grow grapes and make fabulous wines. Through their stories, we will learn not just about their wines, but also about their ways of life, the local and regional foods and specialities that pair naturally with their wines, and the most beautiful places to visit. We have a wonderful journey of discovery ahead of us, and I hope you will join me. Welcome to Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on Italian Wine Podcast. Today it is my great pleasure to travel to Collio, a small and very prestigious wine region in Friuli-Venezia Giulia, to meet my guest, Ilaria Felluga, who is now overseeing two family wineries, Russiz Superiore and Marco Felluga. Thank you so much for being my guest today, Ilaria. How are you?
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for inviting me. Very, very good. I have to tell you that we are getting ready for the harvest time to come in 10 days, so very electrified now.
Yes, such an exciting moment of the year. I was with you in June at Russiz Superiore. The grapes were already on the vines, and we were imagining what it would be like in a few months. Now it's nearly that moment. For our listeners who may not know your area well, let's give them a picture of what the wineland of Collio is like, where this special corner of northeastern Italy where you are located.
Absolutely. Yes. So we are in the north and east region of Italy. As you said, it's called the Friuli-Venezia Giulia. We do border in the northern part with Austria and in the east part with Slovenia. Then we are very lucky to have the Adriatic Sea in the southern part, and on the left part, in the west part, we've got the Veneto region. So we are lucky enough to have very warm days because we do have the influence of the sea, but the protection of the mountains on the back. So the nights are pretty cold, and this is the perfect climate for doing what we're doing, so producing grapes and producing wine. So yeah, the region, it's not that big, but actually the appellation, it's very small, the Colli appellation where we are and we're producing wine. So yes, this is a little bit our geography.
Yes, it's a very special place. I remember standing up by the chapel above the Russiz Superiore, having come up from the cellar, and we could look across and see the Alps. And I guess Austria is behind the Alps. And then looking in the other direction, we're very, very near the Slovenian border. 5-10 kilometers, very, very close.
Very, very close. And from our place, so from our terrace in Russiz Superiore, you can see the hills of Slovenia and, of course, of Slovenia. And actually, the phone will tell you, welcome to Slovenia, because the net of the phone, it's getting better, the Slovenian connection, that not the Italian one. So yes, we are very, very...
Actually, I remember that happening. We kept getting that message when we were with you there. Everybody was saying, "Oh, we're in Slovenia."
Yes.
So it's a very interesting area historically, Ilaria. There have been so many different influences and these borders, and of course the history and some of that very tragic with the wars. But tell us a little bit about your family history, which is also linked to the history of the area. You're the sixth generation now, is that right?
I wanted to start saying that, yes, I'm lucky enough to be the sixth generation, And I was very lucky to have my family that was introducing me to that word and giving me that passion that is, of course, helping me and keep going on that incredible world of the wine production. But yes, the family started more than 150 years ago in a place that it's called Isola. Nowadays, it's in Slovenia, but back to 150 years ago, even more, it was always connected to Italy. Before, under the Republic of Venice, and later under the government of the Habsburg Empire. And over there, the family decided to start our history on the wine world in a small restaurant, a locanda, that was called Bonavia. And actually, over there, they were producing more, at the beginning, of course, more food than wine. But then they decided to specialize in producing a little bit more wine. So they decided to buy lands and actually to open up the shipments, because Isola, that it's a city still nowadays, a very nice and cozy city to visit on the coast. So it's a port city. They decided to start that shipments from Isola to Grado. Grado is an Italian city. After the Second World War, it stayed in Italy. And they decided in 1920s, more or less, to open a warehouse in Grado. So they were able to open the market to other two places that were Veneto and Friuli-Venezia Giulia, of course. And that was very, very important because my grandfather, yes, the father of my great-grandfather, let's say, the father of my grandfather Marco, that he was called Giovanni, um, he was having a look around the region, the Friuli-Venezia Giulia region, and he did find out that the place was incredible, and he wanted to open, let's say, the first real winery in Gradisca di Son. So we're talking about the 1938, so just before the Second World War, and that was a very important thing that he decided to do. Gradisca di Son, so from Isola, it's about 1.5 hours by driving, so pretty far away, talking about at that time. But, with the Second World War, everything that was under the border, under the Tito government, under the Yugoslavia that was called at that time, was lost. So we lost the houses, we lost lands, we lost the locanda, the small restaurant where we started. We lost actually everything, but the family.
So Isola became part of Yugoslavia.
Yes, yes. After the Second World War, that part remained Yugoslavia. Nowadays, it's called Slovenia. It was pretty dangerous even for people, but we were lucky enough that the whole family decided to move from there to Grado and Gradisca di Sonso, and everyone was safe. And my great-grandfather Giovanni was continuing on the wine world with two of his 7 children. They were Marco, my grandfather, and Livio. And they stayed together till 1956, working together under one name that was a Felluga name. And then in 1956, they decided to split out and continuing on their own way. And they found, of course, the two wineries, Marco Felluga and Livio Felluga. My grandfather Marco stayed in Gradisca di Sonso, that it's still nowadays the headquarters of Marco Felluga estate, in the Collio appellation, so under the province of Gorizia city. And instead Livio moved to Colli Orientali del Friuli, another denomination under the province of Udine. So pretty close, like 15-20 minutes by driving. But yes, two different wineries, two very big and influent names on the wine world. And that was, yeah.
Yes, I think that's really important, Ilaria, to for our listeners to understand the importance of all these momentous historic events that cause people to move, and also how your family, your grandfather, your father, were really instrumental in rebuilding an area that had been torn apart by war and creating a great wine region, along with other pioneers in Friuli-Venezia Giulia. Of course, Ilaria Felluga being another great name of wines from Friuli-Venezia Giulia. But it's that story that really is how a wine region rebuilt itself completely after the war. And that's also the story of your family.
Yes, yes, absolutely. The thing at that time after the war was creating, because, of course, as you said, after the war, everything had to be created again. And it was important even to stay together. I'm talking about the consortium that were formed at that time. So, actually, the consortium Collio was formed in 1964. So, yeah, we're talking about such a long time ago, and it was one of the first consortium formed after Chianti and Barolo.
And the consortio that those early days were really important in helping to establish the identity of Friuli wines by, I guess, focusing on varietal wines, wines from single grapes. You know, we have this great variety of wines, which we'll talk about in a minute, of wines from native grapes, wines from international grapes. And it's really become such an important, small, but high quality wine region.
Yes, yes, specialized in white wines production. We're talking about right now the 87%. And as you said, from local native grapes to international grape varieties, to, of course, even very small percentage of red wines, but very, very interesting and with a lot of character. So, yeah, yes, it's a various, let's say, region, and we're proud of that.
Yes, and there are a number of different denominazioni in Friuli Venezia Giulia, but let's just focus on Collio. Collio is a very special wineland. What makes it so special?
As I said, there's a lot of history here. I did mention that the Consortium Collio was the third consortium formed, but was even one of the first that was recognized by the Ministry of Agriculture by the denomination, so the DOC, so the recognition by that important denomination. That recognition was given 4 years later after the Consortium Collio was formed, so in 1968. And one of the most important thing, and we were talking about it earlier, it's the climate that we do have, the microclimate, because of course we're up on the hills, and then you know that every hill can have their own microclimate, but we're lucky to have that very warm and hot days with, of course, a little bit of wind, and then in the night, the cold nights that are gonna help us, of course, in the production of the aromas of the grapes. But another very, very important thing that we do have in our small area, because Collio it's a very small area, we're talking about 7,000 hectares in total, but less than 1,500 are actually vineyards. So a very, very small area. There's a lot of biodiversity. When you come here, you will remember that we do have grass, we do have fields, we do have forests, and of course vineyards. So I'm always proud to say that there's a lot of biodiversity. But the important of our region, of course, it's even the soil that we do have. The soil that we have, it was originated such a long time ago. We're talking about 65 million years ago, and it's called ponca in Friulian language. Actually, it's on the common language we do in Italian, we do say that it's called the flesh, whose a certification of marls and sandstones. And it's very compact as a soil. It's very rich in minerals, but very poor talking about the organic part. But for us, it's incredible because, as I said, it was originated such a long time ago. But the incredible thing is that where now we've got that very gentle hills, in the past, we had the sea. Still nowadays, when we do work the soil, we found out some fossils, some shells, and actually here in Russiz Superiore, we've got a very huge rock, and it was studied, that huge rock, and a professor of a University of Genova told us that it's a huge piece of a coral reef. That coral reef, of course, it refers on that period where we got that sea here. He told us that the sea was not that deep, it was pretty warm, around 26, 30 degrees, so kind of tropical. Of course, on that huge rock, you can see the shells and the fish and everything that was the population of that time. So it's incredible. And of course, when you do decide to preserve that kind of soil and then to create the winery as we're producing, you can taste, you can feel on the wines that kind of minerality and sapidity and acids.
Yes, absolutely. So it is incredible to imagine this incredible prehistory of time when it was an ancient sea where there were rivers running through, but it's left these deposits of fleece, this stratified clay marl. It's grey soil, is that right? Quite grey in color.
Yes, yes.
Let's talk about a couple of the native grape varieties that are most important for you.
Okay, so yeah, we are very, very happy to have on our appellation indigenous grape varieties and even international, because even if we're talking about international grape varieties such as Pinot Grigio, Pinot Bianco, Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, are grapes that are growing here not since ever, but now are more than 100 or 120, 150 years that are growing here in Colli appellation in Friuli-Venezia Giulia region. So they did find out their own place here. We're very proud to have indigenous grape varieties. We do believe very much in Friulano. That you might remember that till 2006 was called Tokai Friulano. Still calling it, with my grandfather Marco, he will tell you Tokai, not Friulano, because it was known by the previous generations as Tokai, but of course it's Friulano. I always say that it's more identified to have the region is called Friuli, the wine of the region is called Friulano, so it's very intense the name that you have, that it's from the same family of the Sauvignon Blanc, but it's not 100% aromatic grape variety, it's semi-aromatic. So you do have very intense aromas of flowers, like yellow flowers, and a little bit of fields. It's a grape that I love very much. And the other one that we do have on our wines that we do cultivate is Ribolla Gialla. Ribolla Gialla, it's another very interesting grape that you might have in different ways. We are very close to the tradition, so we do produce Ribolla Gialla, only Ribolla Gialla, not sparkling, not with maturation, but Ribolla Gialla. and it's a very interesting wine. It has very high acidity. We do leave it with a little bit of skin contact. We are talking about one night maximum. So from that grape, you can even have some intensity, and it's very interesting. And then another local grape that we do produce, that we do have, it's Refosco dal Peduncolo Rosso. So it's a red wine. It's very interesting too. It's a wine that has a lot of color, like ruby red, and a lot of tannins. You need time, you have to be patient and let the wine rest for a certain time before drinking it. And it's very interesting too. So these are the three local grape, the indigenous grape varieties that we do produce.
Italian Wine Podcast. If you think you love wine as much as we do, then give us a like and a follow anywhere you get your pods.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Ilaria. And I know you have a larger range of wines from both Russiz Superiore and Marco Felluga, and I urge our listeners to discover them. But all of your wines, all of the wines, I think, of Friuli-Venezia Giulia are particularly wines that go well with food. They're wines to enjoy with food. So can we turn to maybe to speaking a little bit about some of the really typical dishes for people if they come to Friuli-Venezia Giulia? What should they eat and what wines go best with these typical dishes?
Okay, so friends of mine that are always coming to visit me, I do always recommend frico. Frico, it's a kind of cake, salty cake, made with smashed potatoes and a typical local cheese that it's called Montasio. It comes from cow milk. Its age it depends, can be from 30 days to 3-4 months. So you do have on the fire, of course, you do put that cheese and that potatoes, and then you're gonna have the part of the cheese that it's gonna melting and mixing with that potatoes. Now it's almost time of lunch here in Italy, and I'm getting hungry now talking about it. But yeah, it's my favorite food, local food from here. So you can have it. Then, of course, you're gonna get that crunchy part. And then in the middle, it's gonna be very soft, and you're gonna have kind of a cake because it's gonna coming out round. And I'm eating it. It's typical, let's say, a winter dish because, the cheese, the potatoes, but I'm having in every single part of the year. For me, it's amazing that I can't stay away from frico.
Okay. And Ilaria, what wine would you like when you're having a big plate of frico?
It depends on the occasions because if you're gonna have maybe just a small slice for aperitif, even a friulano can be fine. But then you can have it even as a second course, and usually frico it's paired with polenta. You're gonna even have a red wine, not a very strong red wine, can be maybe Refosco, not that aged Refosco, or a Merlot. They are both very, very interesting with that food. So, yeah, I will say that.
Okay. And the geography that you explained so beautifully also reflects in the gastronomy when you have the mountains and maybe game from the mountains or going down to the Adriatic. Wonderful, wonderful seafood. So your wines are really able to pair with food from inland, from mountain, as well as freshness from the Adriatic Sea.
Yes, we're very lucky. With some friends, we do say Friul magic because we do have everything from the mountains to the sea and the countryside and everything. From our place, you can be in the mountains by 1 hour and a half driving, and you can go even skiing, and then in about half an hour, 40 minutes, you can go by the sea and have a swim. So we're very lucky. We're very lucky to be on that very interesting geographic area.
Yes, it is a very special area. And I would also add that I think it's still an undiscovered area. So again, I would urge our listeners who often like to travel to places that we talk about to discover Friuli-Venezia Giulia, to come and discover the wines, the foods, and just the beauty of the place. Now, Ilaria, tell us about wine hospitality. If our listeners do come to Friuli-Venezia Giulia, can they visit Russiz Superiore and Marco Felluga?
There's airport in the region that it's called Trieste Airport, that it's very close from us, like 20 minutes by driving. But the closest, biggest airport, it's Venice, that it's close to. It's just about 1 hour by driving. Then when you do arrive here, I always say that it's like you're into the nature. Even if we've got big cities as Trieste, Udine, Gorizia too, but the respect that there's here in the region for the nature, it's always huge. Let's say the holiday that you would have here in Friuli Venezia Giulia region, it's slow. It's slow tourism, and you are very getting into the history and I do repeat the nature that it's surrounding you. So actually, yes, we do work very much with the tourists, and the tourists are coming from mostly from Austria and Germany, and in the last years even Slovenia. But we've got even after COVID, let's say, a lot of Italians coming to visit us. These are the main tourists that we do have. And my father Roberto wanted to create a building that would host people coming from all over the world. And yes, we do have a bed and breakfast that it's called Russiz Superiore, Relais Russiz Superiore. Are 7 rooms that we do open seasonally from March till November. So in the best period of the year, because we get the springtime, we get summertime and autumn, that talking about colors and nature are the best periods. And we do organize a lot of experiences. Of course, the first one that we do promote is to visit and taste the cellar and the wines, our wines, of course. But we do create during the season different experiences. The first experience that we created just right before COVID, it was that natural, with a natural guide, a walk through the vineyards, and then the stop in front of the huge rock that I was talking earlier, and that natural guide would explain the period, the Oceanic period, so 65 million years ago, what we had here and everything. So we try to create different experiences. Like another one, it's riding a horse through the vineyards and then a glass of wine. This year we decided to create some cooking class where you were able to learn how to cook a typical dish from Friuli that were a stuffed pasta called charsons. Tonight we're gonna have one of the latest event of the season, that it's gonna be a night where you can have a glass of wine and cicchetto. Cicchetto, it's kind of piece of bread with some salami on top, or cheese, or everything that you would like to have on top, with some music in the background. With different experiences, we wanted to attract local people and even create something different for our guests. that of course you have to create some different curiosity to the clients that you have, but even attract younger generations. That's why tonight we're going to have that kind of music and wine, and at the end you can even dance a little bit. So yeah, this is
Oh, that sounds so fun.
yes, yes, yes. We're gonna, even for the people that are working, me too. You get fun. So yeah, it's gonna be very busy tonight.
Yes, good. Well, I hope you have a great night, Ilaria. It's been wonderful talking to you today, and I'd like to thank you for sharing and giving such a vivid picture of a very special corner of Italy that I love very much. I again urge our listeners to discover Friuli and its wines, and if you're able to travel to this beautiful region. Ilaria, I hope the harvest goes well. You said it's beginning in 10 days, so I know it's a very exciting and important moment, and I wish you all the best for the harvest. And I look forward to returning to Russiz Superiore and to seeing you sometime soon. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark. Waiting for you and waiting for all the people that listen to us. And we're always happy to have people around. And thank you, finger crossed, for the harvest time. Even if people would like to come and visit us during the harvest, they might help us
Okay,
collecting grapes.
good.
No, joke. That's a joke. But yes, it's going to be next year another experience that we're going to try to create. So yes.
Okay.
Thank you again.
Thank you,
Thank you for
Ilaria.
inviting me.
Grazie e a presto.
Grazie.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on Italian Wine Podcast. Please remember to like, share and subscribe right here or wherever you get your pods. Likewise, you can visit us at ItalianWinePodcast.com. Until next time, chin chin.